All right, so welcome to part two of this. Um, this is sort of where we left off, and I want to start tackling a few of the issues here straight on. I already did a little bit of work trying to figure out certain things, but I like the distance from where the car is to where the village, or not village, settlement sort of is. I have this older vehicle here, sort of like jumping, but I might scrap that idea. I'm thinking that maybe there's a character here, sort of like maybe looking into here, that it just arrived there or something like that, or like a static sort of pose or something. And I brought in a different image. So this image is not gonna work because this gives me a different type of lighting. One thing that you can do is that if you don't like the lighting or like the color, you can actually change that in the texture. So maybe I can do a hue and saturation, plug that in, plug that into the emission as well, and you can change the color of the image itself. I don't think that's going to be the solve for this particular scene, but that's another option that you could do. Now I brought in a couple images here. This is one of them, which is the same one that that I was using for our previous um, images. So like, for example, this one here, similar, same image that I'm using. And so I can probably start with something like this. Now, sometimes since I'm using cycles, right? Cycles uses the lighting or the colors or the brightness of a plane, like the texture, in order to throw light as well. And so, for example, if I duplicate this, I rotate it, oh, that's actually kind of cool. Maybe the and I can paint that out, but maybe the cloud sort of, that's sort of like a happy accident that we don't need to see the whole moon. But what I wanted to mention was that if I increase the emission on this and the texture, this is actually gonna light coming down into the scene, similar to a area light. So since we're using cycles, we can use that to our advantage as well. And so I think I have one up here already, just lighting up a little bit of the background. And so now we can start working it out. Now I brought in, at this point of this recording, we have a sort of like a work in progress of one of the characters in here. And even though it doesn't have any textures, I brought it in just to kind of pose it. We'll talk about posing characters and all that later, but I sort of brought it in, and I'm gonna have it somewhere here or something, right? And so just kind of get some scale in there. We really don't need it right now, but just so you know that it's there now. I'm liking the idea of having this set instead of the car jumping. I think also, since I'm spending time, constructing the scene, I can maybe do like a sequence of shots, right? Maybe like 2-3 shots, probably 3 shots, sort of like key shots, to kind of practice and play with the cinematography of each shot. So that might be something I can explore later. The other thing is that when you have volume like this, right? So I have this cube with volume. If you go to your render settings under light paths, volume is at 0. So there's really no number of scattering volumetrics inside. If I increase this number, so let's say I do like 12. Now more light is coming in, and it actually changes the color, which is kind of cool because I normally use this for almost like color correction or color grading, right? And so you can see that, and of course it's gonna be a limit there, but about 12 is a good amount. And I'm sort of liking this sort of color correction sort of type of colors that I'm getting. It's a little bit different from what I was getting already from some of these, right? So I might keep something like this for this. Now, what I want to do is I actually want to work on this on this area here, and this is pretty far away. So if I zoom in here, we'll do what we can here. I really like how the green of the greenhouses, we can actually see that. I might add some lights here from like posts and stuff. I think I'm gonna do that actually in Photoshop, and I'm not gonna do it here because it's just gonna take me longer. And the light situation that I have, or that I can do in Photoshop, is gonna be a lot easier to do. And so I don't think I'm gonna spend the time into that. What I do want is to add more buildings so we can see more of the green and we can actually see more buildings going into the back. And so for this, I think I'm just gonna take off or hide my atmosphere so it's a little bit easier to deal with. And now I can maybe start moving and duplicating here. I'm not gonna go too much into the constructing like a whole thing, similar to the actual buildings that we made, because this is so far away that I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. But I do want to maybe play with some of the different height levels of this. So maybe we can see one like over here, up here. Even though it's not gonna make sense from this angle here, but I want to construct it in a way that maybe it does make sense from this angle. And so maybe I can go to this shadings just so it's even easier to deal with. So something like that. And of course I can go into my other buildings and create some more. Now we can see how that sort of looks from this. I'm gonna turn on the atmosphere. See how those lights are looking. Just zoom out a little bit. Yeah, we can always add a little bit of just details and stuff. Simulating, there's more in Photoshop as well. So, however, I do wonder if I add some lights, maybe I can actually light up some of these buildings. But before I do that, I'm actually going to go to my textures here under Sunglass. So the Sunglass texture is this big piece of glass on these ends here. And instead of, I edited a little bit on this shot where I made it a little bit more transparent so we could actually see light coming from inside. So it looks like there's people inside. And so I want to actually replicate that a little bit. I'm going to go to my Sunglass here and say, let's reduce the alpha. Maybe we can do a tint here. And so now we can try to do, let's bring down transmission. Let's keep it on 1. We're going to bring a light source to here. Let's bring cursor to selected. We actually have some lights of this already inside, so maybe we can use these. I'm gonna duplicate it, move it. Now you can see there's something happening, but this might be too much. That's 1,000 there. Let's bring it down. And let's bring it to a more bluish color. And so we see a little bit of something happening there. And I don't need it to be perfect because I can definitely paint this in Photoshop, but I just want to make sure that I get something. Let's move it to a little bit higher. Let's make it 50. That might be too much. Or not. We can always bring it down a little bit. But I actually want to know where these are, where these areas are. That's not bad. Let's do the same for here. Just copy these over here. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's not bad. I think that's enough. Really don't need to have a lot. Yeah, that could work. Now the other thing that I want to try is let's bring a spotlight. Let's take out this atmosphere here. Maybe we can see this light better. Now these posts have a mission here, mission map. Maybe we can increase this. But we always want to see this with the atmosphere here, just to kind of make sure that nothing is getting blown out. Not too concerned about this sort of thing because it's so far away that you just won't see it. But we can see a little bit of the lights here. It could be enough for me to just duplicate that around. Yeah, I think that could work. Okay, so now that we got some lights happening in here, I'm gonna go into my asset library here. Yeah, so that should be good. Let's see how this looks like from far away, the actual shot. Yeah, that's cool. They want to bring some more antennas and maybe more buildings in here as well. Yeah, so while these sort of comes up, I'm gonna keep working this area here because I think we could add a little bit more, maybe make it a little bit more complex bring more interest in there. The foreground is almost there. We got the character in. Maybe we need to play with the actual terrain here. Another thing that I was wondering was that maybe this car is like maybe like on a cliff. Like this is a cliff here, and the car is here, right? And we got the character here, sort of like looking into it instead of having this spot here. That's something that I might entertain to see if it's gonna work or not. But that's another idea for this section here, and I'm not sure. But that's something that I will try. But I'm gonna keep working on this area here on the settlement itself, and then we'll come back to that. All right, so here's an update on this. I did like a little mix of the new idea of having the cliff with what I had originally, sort of like looking up into like maybe like a ramp up a hill or something like that. We got the character here, and then we got the sort of settlement over here. So I'm pretty happy with this. It's kind of hard to tell here in the window, but there's like another towers and stuff back here from this. I know it's in the render, but it's kind of hard to see from just the viewport here. But this is pretty good. And so what I did was I created based on this, I created a new file, and I play with some cameras to get 2 other shots, a little bit more character based, but here I'll show you what those look like. So here's one. This is one of the characters, and then we can see the settlement in the back. Maybe I'll paint either more mountains or a valley or something back here, or just like clouds and stuff like that back here. But pretty simple shot. And then another one here, and this one we don't see the actual town, but we do see the character. Just playing with the big moon that we see on this one, and then bring it to this one. So I'm using again depth of field. The focus is on the character itself, and then with this, it's sort of like give us like a cinematic or a movie or something like that that we can play with that. A little bit of a foreground element here, blurred out, and then the shape I'm having the moon. I could have the whole moon covering here, but I wanted to keep a little bit of the sky just so we can actually see the shape of the moon here by the edge, not too close to the edge, by the edge here. Now I can play with some of maybe some clouds or something like that in here. But these are the shots that I have. Let's go back to this one. Right, there's a few things that I will do in Photoshop, but I will render these out and then take them into Photoshop. There's really not that much to do. I'll cover some of the Photoshops in other videos as well if I haven't covered it. But I'll render these now, take them to Photoshop, and then finish them up, and then we'll see the end results of that. All right, so here are the 3 final images. Let's go through some of these. I'll show you some of what the renders look like, but I want to show you sort of like the final results first. There wasn't really a lot of changes that I did. A lot of in most of these, especially these 2, I just painted over some of the windows and stuff like that, just so we could see a little bit of light in these. But overall, there wasn't much to edit from this, and that's one of the reasons why I love working with 3D kits, right? We could really crank out images like this fairly quick. But let me show you the on this one. This one was the one that took the most work. Again, it wasn't a lot of work, but out of the 3, this one I had to do a little bit more. And I'll show you. This is the final image, and this is the render. So you can see there wasn't much that I did here, right? Added some lights to the vehicle, changed the color, some foreground elements, blurred out, a little bit of painting on the back, a couple of plants around, similar to the other shots that we have worked on. But that's about it. But it probably took me like 10-20 minutes just to get from here to here, so not really a lot. But yeah, just wanted to do sort of like a set of images with you guys. You can see it's fairly quick and a lot of fun. These are really just fun images that we get to do. But I hope you guys enjoy it and learned something from it.